Let's spend some time on VFR sectional charts. This is a little bit of a longer lesson, by the way, so do make sure you have time to actually complete all this, and it's going to have a little bit of a homework assignment at the end of it as well. But this is such a staple and such a cornerstone type lesson of this ground school because it covers not just the VFR sectional symbols, but it covers airspace and special use airspace and restricted area and so much other stuff. This is really a foundation type lesson, so do make sure you fully understand it, and let's kind of dive into this a little bit together. First off, some facts of what you actually need to know. VFR sectional charts, the FAA considers a primary means of VFR navigation. Now what you really need to know, especially for your check ride, is how long are they valid for? Well, actually on the top of your VFR sectional chart, if you're on an iPad, they'll still have this, don't worry. They'll show you when this chart came out and when it's good to. It is a 6-month period. Now you could buy it at the last day of its validity and it could expire the next day. 6 months is 6 months. It's not 6 months from when you purchased it. It moves in 6-month intervals. So what we used to do before we had iPads is we would time the purchase of a chart right when it came off so we'd get the longest use, that full 6 months out of that chart. Now with iPads, it just tells you when it's expired and downloads a new one. But it's important to know about the 6-month rule. Let's look now at what the FAA calls the VFR Chart User's Guide. And this is where we're going to spend some time. Now, I've included this chart user's guide underneath this video, and part of your homework is to really go through this. We're going to go through a good portion of this user guide together, and then we're going to look at an actual VFR sectional chart so you guys can see that. Let's start with our airports. Follow my cursor, it's right over here. You can see we have magenta airports and blue airports. You can read over here, airports having control towers, CT, are shown in blue. All others are shown in magenta. Does this airport have a control tower? Well, it's blue, so it sure does. It's magenta, it sure doesn't. There are a few little exceptions to that we'll cover in a later lesson. You can take that a step further down here. Here's that airport showing the symbols. Here's the star showing, yes, we have a rotating beacon here. You can see a controlled version of that and an uncontrolled or pilot-controlled airport version of that. The tabs outside of this airport mean this airport has fuel. Let's continue down a little bit further where they start to show the runway patterns of longer runways. Again, showing that beacon over here. Let's continue. This now shows us our airport data grouping that we can dive into and look at. And you could just look at this and go, okay, what does all this mean to me? Well, here's the great legend to kind of work you through everything. The name, the control tower frequency, the common traffic advisory frequency, the pilot controlled lighting, which you can see down over here. RP for a right traffic pattern, for 2-3, for 3-4. And I can learn so much about my airport just by looking at it on the VFR sectional chart. So my challenge to you is to work through some of this. Follow and read through this here. Again, you'll have access to this as a PDF and as a website at the end, so you can kind of dive through this and start to look at some of your own airports. What if we have a VOR? You'll see a compass rose around your airport, and then you'll get an extra box that'll say VOR or VORTAC at the top. It'll show you the Morse code. It'll show you the VOR frequency and the VOR phonetic identifier so you can tune into it, so you can listen to that Morse code to make sure that VOR is actually working. Again, I apologize if I'm going fast, but there's going to be some homework, and obviously we'll follow up on this in future lessons to really dive a whole lot deeper into this. We can look at airspace on here. Class Bravo being those blue lines. Class Charlie being those magenta lines. Class Delta, blue dashed lines. Again, when we get into the airspace module, we'll cover this in greater detail, so don't feel like you're being left behind here. And again, we can go back over this on your own as well. But all these things we can learn just by looking at our VFR sectional chart. Class Echo airspace, dashed magenta line. Here's a Class Echo extension out over here. We dive into some transition area and domestic en route Class Echo airspace out this way as well. Well, trust me, we'll have a whole lesson on that. It's a very complex subject to understand here. we show low altitude airways for IFR traffic. You might say, Jason, I'm just trying to be a VFR pilot. But they'll show you some of the most popular IFR routes on there as well. So when you're flying your cross countries, you can be aware that you're crossing literally a highway in the sky, and it's important to be vigilant for other traffic as you cross through those popular IFR routes. You'll see special use airspace. Blue hash marks shows are prohibited with a P, restricted with an R, warning with a W. The hash marks that are magenta shows our alert areas and our MOAs, military operations areas. A thin magenta line is our Mode C veil, that 30 nautical mile Mode C veil. Let's now look at a sectional chart and start to apply some of this stuff. Let's start with an easy one. Here is the Ocala Airport. I do a lot of flying out of the Ocala Airport. It is a blue airport. It has a control tower. I can tell because it's blue. I can also tell because it's a Class Delta. Blue dashed lines all the way around here. Ocala International, Taylor Field, OCF, control tower 119.25. That's also my common traffic advisory frequency. My ATIS is 128.125. I'm at 90 feet elevation. The star with an L means I have pilot-controlled lighting. 7,400 feet is the longest runway there, and 123.0 is my Unicom frequency if I had to call the FBO to request fuel or something, a radio check, those sort of things. I can learn a lot about my airport just by looking at the actual VFR sectional chart. I can see some private airports. Here's Jumbo Air, where John Travolta lives, right out over here, but it shows private at the end. That is a private airport, and I need prior permission before landing at that private airport. Palatka 1, MOA, this is the Palatka 1 Military Operations Area, which leads into the blue hash mark showing our restricted area, 2910 Alpha. Can I fly in a restricted area? Well, yes and no. I need to get prior permission. It needs to be either hot or cold, right? To know what I need to do. If it's cold, absolutely. If it's hot, absolutely not. Let's continue looking. Yellow here showing city congestion. This is the villages. Big retirement community down here. Here's the actual town of Ocala. Here's an uncontrolled airport, the Marion County Airport, X-ray 35, 65 feet field elevation, pilot-controlled lighting, 5,000 foot long runway, 122.8 is my CTAF frequency. Here's my information for my Ocala VOR. You can see there's so much information. And one thing you're going to need to do is get yourself a sectional chart, whether it's on your iPad or I'll show you how to get a free one online, and start quizzing yourself. Find things that you don't know and then look them up in the chart user's guide that I gave you so you can learn a little bit more. Let's keep looking at some sectional charts. So here's up in the Jacksonville area. Here's a solid magenta line, this Class Charlie airspace. Notice it has two shelves out there. Here's another Delta down here, yellow, showing city congestion. There's the town of Jacksonville. Let's go back to this Class Charlie airport. I said it has two shelves. It has an inner core shelf here from the surface to 4,000 feet. It has an outer shelf that goes from 1,200 to 4,000 feet. It's that upside down wedding cake that we spend so much time talking about in the airspace module. Here's some more MOAs, this hash mark out here, these magenta hash marks out here. Let's look at a more complex one now. Here's the Orlando area. Class Bravo airspace, solid blue lines. Class Bravo, busy airspace, need prior permission to fly into. You can see the altitudes the shelves go from 3,000 to 10,000, from 6,000 to 10,000, 2,000 to 10,000, and I can see that. Here's the city of Orlando. Here's the Orlando Executive Airport, kind of buried. This little Class Delta airport is buried within here. Guys, you need to get good at understanding VFR sectional charts. I know I really breezed through this very quickly, but I wanted to just kind of plant the seed and build a strong foundation for you. So here's your homework, because we're going to cover this more, but I need you to do a little bit of work on your own. I want you to go to the website skyvector.com. David Graves is the founder of that, very good friend of mine, a friend and fan of M0A.com as well. He founded SkyVector.com. They are free sectional charts, VFR and IFR charts, all online. Find your local area, print it out, whatever, screenshot it, whatever you've got to do, and start to learn your local area. Then underneath this video is the Aeronautical Chart User's Guide. Go through that user's guide and go, oh, here's a symbol I don't recognize. Then go to the user's guide and find it. That's what I want you to do. That's your homework. Because on your check ride, I kid you not, that check ride examiner could just take his finger and go, what's that? What's that? Tell me what that is. What does this mean to you? And pick out anything on there. You need to know these charts inside and out. So stop watching future videos here. Don't move on to the next module just yet. You've got a homework assignment you need to complete. Please at least spend 15 minutes minimum doing what I just asked you to do. You will be light years ahead of anybody else if you take action on that. Go do your homework, take 15 minutes doing it, and I'll see you in the next lesson. See ya.